I think really if you're issuing like harsh electronica or sort of noise music, even sort of minimalist techno, the ferric hiss that's already in the sort of the tape as is really lends itself to that music.
As a format, it's cheap to produce, and there's fairly little waiting time between actually like finishing a piece of work and then releasing it via cassette. So I think it's always been very popular in the world of experimental music for that reason.
That's the attraction of it, really, is it encourages a lot more DIY sort of approach that was more common when you had independent labels in the late 70s and early 80s doing DIY post-punk type things, photocopying their artwork and stuff like that.
They were the ones who first brought electronic music out in that form, you know, and it was something they could do totally outside of the industry. You know, they didn't need record labels, they didn't even need a pressing plant.
I read an interesting statistic, and I read this a few years ago, and it said that there was as many people buying cassettes now as they were in 1987, which is really interesting because 1987 was also the time when CDs and CD players became like sort of what you had to have in your hi-fi system.
One of the labels that I've actually worked with is Further Records, based in Seattle. I know they were one of the first to start putting electronic music out just on cassette again. That would have been 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. They were real pioneers of it, and I think a lot of other labels kind of hooked into that.
The Dream Catalogue guys, 2814, their last album, Rain Temple, they did vinyl, CD and cassette. It was a really, really good album and got a lot of attention, and to kind of have it across all formats, I thought was really nice.
Probably what Stephen Bishop was doing with Opal tapes. That's when I seem to remember most recently anyway, there being this weird electronic music starting to get pushed out on cassette.
In the sort of system and the mechanical aspect of having a tape player with the whirring and the sort of when you click it into place, it's got its own sound to it as an object.
As soon as you put anything onto cassette, invariably it will make it sound about 20 years older than it actually is. You listen to a lot of stuff from the 60s, but it was all done on tape from scratch, you know, and you know, there's a lot of muddiness and distortion, but it gives it an atmosphere and a flavour.
Some of my favourite cassettes are the ones that like couldn't imagine it existing any other way. Probably like the that killing sound from the first No Corner. Like that, yeah, just seems right on a cassette.
There's a magic about it when you stick it in there, and it just the tape player's putting out all these crazy sounds, and you know, it's music you might not have appreciated in the same way if it was just playing off your computer. I think it kind of adds to it.
People like 1991 and Best Available Technology, they use a lot of cassette recording techniques in their music, so it feels natural to have the music being available on cassette, since the mastering techniques, the recording techniques that they're using actually utilizes cassette.
Tape has always had like a history of having interesting packaging, especially within the underground world. The fact that people do such limited quantities of a release means that they can go to town with the artwork. So if you have 25 copies of a cassette, you can turn them into small art editions.
One of the things that really drew me in when I first saw Sacred Tapes, they'd done this box set of 20 copies. And it came in a concrete box. Because it's such a limited number of things, you can go away and do something like that.
I was working a lot with concrete in my own art practice, and just had this idea about archiving it, and I was like, I'll do this after every 6 releases. And then I was just like, no way am I doing that after every 6, it's just way too much.
You can do a lot with the artwork, you can do a lot with the printing. I think it's maybe people who are doing very experimental stuff will probably cross over with other art forms, visual arts and things like that, and I think as an object it's quite a nice thing to work with.
There's a real recognition there that this isn't just something that's a fad. People are taking cassettes, you know, as a serious medium for issuing serious work.
off tapes in the 90s, I don't think they're going anywhere. You know, I think there's always going to be some people who are just like, gotta have fucking loads of tapes, you know.